Well, hello, good evening. How is everyone doing? It's time for another hot and smoking episode of the Ruby Girl Talk with your favorite Ruby Girl, Dr. K, also known as Coach K, your AI bestie. And so tonight, we have Dr. Anissa Short. Look, y'all, I had to invite her back. She was on my show before, and we were talking about her book called Why I Said Yes. I always want to say yes. Why I said yes. And so I hadn't read the book, but after I read the book, it's the type of book that once you read it, you hold it when you get to the end and you kind of let it like really touch your soul. And so I was so excited about the book that I had brought it to a women's meeting about a week ago. I went to, for whatever reason, I felt led to bring the book. And so when I just pulled up the book, y'all probably can't see it, but when I pulled up the book, I figured y'all would. There we go, just a little bit. And I told them about the book. Before I even got finished, they were so excited about the book, Dr. Nissa. So I said, let me bring her back because I can't be the only one that this book has blessed. And plus, I wanted people that maybe missed the first episode to be able to catch this episode. So before we get started, I know you probably already went on my page and shared it, right? Because you're an
I'm doing
expert.
it right now.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna talk about the Ruby Girl brand for those that are new to the page or maybe connected to you. So the Ruby Girl brand comes from Proverbs 31:10. Who can find a virtuous woman for her prices far above the price of a ruby? So this makes ladies rare, virtuous, and valuable. And so the Ruby Girl brand is restoring the value of the woman. Our respect level has dropped. We're bringing it back, and we're just creatively bringing Christ to the world. And so let's get started. Let's get started. So, Dr. Anissa, if you can just introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey, great evening, everyone. I am a woman on a mission, one with a plan, with passion and purpose to do all I can to enrich the lives of others. For that will be my claim to fame. I'm so honored to be here, Dr. K. And yes, Dr. Anissa Short is my name. Hey, everybody.
So, tell them how they can get in touch with you. Got to give them your website.
Okay, they can find me. Let's go to social media. Let's go to Facebook. Let's go to LinkedIn, and you can find me at Dr. Anissa Short. I am also on Instagram. I'm building up that platform, but on IG I am Dr. Anissa C Short. But either way, I'm there, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
That's great. That's great. So, Dr. Anissa, you have written a lot of books. You have a
Yep.
publishing company. Tell us a little bit about your publishing company.
So the Chosen Pen Group is a hybrid publishing company, and what I mean by that is that we function much like a traditional publisher, in that we do all the things for our clients, from the book cover to making sure that they're registered with an ISBN. We help them with the editing and formatting. We even, if they need assistance with writing the book, we have a writing coach on our team. We actually assist them with a little bit of marketing. We don't promote being a marketing company, but once their book goes live, we have, in some cases, assisted our clients with becoming Amazon bestsellers, and even assisted them with getting some exposure through podcast interviews. And so I serve as the director. I have an awesome team of women, woo woo, women, and we together we bring the lives of the we bring people's books to life. And so the Chosen Pen Group is the name. ChosenPenGroup.com is the website. And then in addition to that, I have two podcast platforms that I serve as a host of. One is called Conversations with Chosen Pen, where we do all things literary. We interview authors and the such. And then I have Amplified with Dr. Anissa Short, where I interview creatives, entertainers, the extracurricular, anyone that's bringing about positive impact on the community. That's what Amplified is. And then I curate a podcast with my husband. He has a podcast, I should say. He's the host of Man Exchange. So I guess you could say I'm his executive producer, because I'm behind the scenes going, "You got 5 minutes," and and I help him with getting bookings for that. And then he and I together on Thursdays at 7, we host a live show called Love and Laughter on Facebook, where we talk about the covenant of marriage. And a lot of times we just share nuggets ourselves, or we interview couples. Yep. So that's what I do, in addition to being my husband's awesome wife and all that good stuff.
I'm quite sure that last row you rock right. And that's why we're having this conversation tonight. But I didn't know you and your husband had a show.
Yeah,
You
love
said
and
on
laughter.
Thursday, Love and Laughter.
Hmm.
So You do a lot of speaking. You do a lot of outreach, helping other people meet their potential. But I think the one thing I want to know, how did you know that being an author and a speaker, that was your gifting?
I didn't know. I just was busy working. So my becoming an author was something that I chose to do as a result of working with the community of women for which I serve. I've often worked with women, female entrepreneurs, particularly those who were working and building business from within the walls of their home. And so when I made the decision to write the first book, it was out of a need that I saw being evident with the women that was part of my tribe. And as a result of people being referred to me, asking me the same questions over and over again, I said, I'm going to write a book. So then that way, when they call me, I can say, here, you can upload this ebook or you can buy the paperback. That's what started my literary venture, so to say. It was in the process of meeting Dr. Norma McLaughlin to get that book published that she spoke into my life and said that my journey as an author was going to surpass what I was already doing at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, bless her heart, I think she's got me confused with somebody else because I had no inclination to write any more books. But here it is now. That was, I think, 2017. So almost 10 years later, I have curated 14 projects, literary projects, yeah. Many of which I'm an international best-selling author. As a result of me making a decision to publish that book, it opened doors for me. I've been to the continent of Africa and spoke on stages at the University of South Africa. So yeah, God is good. And and sometimes your plans are like ha 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 in his face.
Right. I think our plans is God's jokes.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
we do
yeah.
our part. I remember when I made the decision to quit my good job, my good government job, as I used to say, and I felt myself in a little fog about what I was supposed to do next. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do next, and God told me entrepreneurship was where I was supposed to be. He confirmed that through my husband, but I wasn't sure how that was going to manifest. I mean, in what capacity? I knew what I was doing at the time. I was a part of a fantastic direct sales company in a leadership position, but I didn't really see that as being what I was meant to do, so to say, right? And God
Mm.
spoke to me and told me that I was to stay right there, to move into leadership capacity, learn as much as I could, and he would let me know when it was time to make the shift. And so the shift happened when I got into publishing.
Oh, wow. It's amazing because I hear people say, I've been writing since I was a little child, and,
Mhm.
I'm a wordsmith, and it's like a gift that's in them. So that just shows you how greatness can come about through helping others.
It really can. It really, really
Yeah.
can. But the very first opportunity I had to be a part of the publishing arena, though, when I moved to Fayetteville, I met a lady at a networking event who had a magazine, and so she extended an opportunity for me to write articles for the magazine. So I did that graciously, and it always focused on business. It was just tips to business. I would spotlight business owners in the community. So that was the very first real opportunity to be a part of some type of publishing platform, but as a contributing writer, not knowing that 5 years later I would publish a book and then eventually within a few years after that be in charge of directing a company myself.
Oh, wow. It's amazing path that God has sent you on.
I know
Matter of
he has.
fact, we connected because you was in anthology, I believe, for
Yeah.
Ebony Walker. That was her name.
Ebony, no, yeah, I facilitated the project. That was my project. Ebony was a
Okay.
co-author in one of my literary projects. I think I want to say it may have been the Reach Teach Lead, the one we did on mentorship. And so she was
Yes.
one of the co-authors, and then I met you through her, I believe it was, or somehow or
Yeah.
another. Yeah,
She mentioned it to me coming on the show, and that's how me and you connected. I don't know
yeah.
how many years that's been. I
I know
can't
we've
even.
been you've been stuck with me ever since.
And it's a good stuck. Some people you're so glad that you happen to meet. I have so many Facebook friends, family that I haven't even met yet, but I feel like that we're just connected.
I
And it
know
has
we
to
are.
be because we're in the body of Christ, so we share the
That
same blood.
absolutely exactly that,
Right.
and then I just believe that when you're doing what you're intended to do, God brings people into your life as kind of like destiny helpers, so to say. And
Mhm.
so it's some people come into your life for a reason, season, for a lifetime. And little did I know, I probably would not have ever met you had I not embraced working in the literary space, because it was one thing that led to the next. So, it's all God. It has to be. I
Yeah.
mean, I was in the state of North Carolina, you in Detroit, Michigan. I mean, where else would I have met you? At the
Mm.
airport, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, and you know what's so funny? I started my podcast because I had my hairdresser in mind because she was doing all these different things and it was during the pandemic. And I was like, it's probably a lot of entrepreneurs like her that need exposure during this time so
Yeah,
they can start selling. And she
right.
was my first person on my podcast. And from then on, that's what the show was about. It was just keeping people mind off the pandemic at the
Yeah,
time.
right, right. And we
And I
needed that.
Yes, and I can't even tell you how many people I have connected with, I have met just through my podcast. So let's get to talking about this book, girl. We just want to
Okay.
build it up because I wanted people to come online. I wanted them to get settled because this is like the single party. So all my
Yeah.
single ladies that's out there, grab your popcorn, girlfriend, grab your glass of milk, a
Uh,
non-alcoholic drink. The party has
your
started.
mocktail, right?
Yeah,
But
your
let me
mocktail,
say
girl.
this. Thank you
Yes.
again for the opportunity to come on. Because when you sent the text to me and gave me feedback on one of your friends, and you said, "Let's talk about it Tuesday," I thought you meant, "Let's get on the phone, girlfriend." I wasn't even thinking podcast. This is where my head was, and it was later. I was like, "Oh, she wants me to be back on Ruby Girl. No
Yeah.
problem. Either way, it was all good."
You know, if any chance that I get to push something that I find is life changing, I would definitely do it. I'm an author too, but I'm like this. God gave you your gift, gave me mine. So I'm not pushing you. I'm pushing what God has
The
intended for you
message.
to, yeah, to get
and
into the
and
earth.
thank you for saying that, because it's not really about me. It's my story, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
when I wrote the book, it wasn't really about shining necessarily a light on us exclusively, but the message behind the story. Does that make sense? It was
Oh
a
yeah.
combination of the two. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, because like I said, it was it's a short book. So I love a easy read. And even today I sat on my porch and I went back through the book just that quick. And it
Yeah,
only took me like maybe, 20 minutes or whatever. But even going back through it, I was able to pick up some really good nuggets just right off the bat. And
yeah.
so when everything is good, it's not hard to pick up good things right away.
Well, good.
So,
Well, to God be the glory.
so before we get started, I need y'all to share this. This is a very important story because it's for our single ladies. So me being a single lady, I never been married. Um, my struggle had always been the waiting room, but you took me from concentrating on the waiting room to learning about how to get out of that waiting room because I
Right,
had been taught to look for the red flags. What's wrong with this guy?
right,
What is he? If I get with him, what's the bad parts is going to happen? I got to consider that. My mind never shifted to what's right with him. Find a man
right,
that you can find the things that you have. I have written out a husband list. Look for those type of qualities in a man.
right,
Because if he
right,
has a red, if it's a smoking red flag, number one, you're gonna get discernment about it from God.
right, right.
But the thing is, Dr. Nissa, I think we push God out when it comes to relationship. We like, Lord, I got this. Every time
Yeah,
we
we
see a
do.
man, we jump in front. Okay, Lord, I got this right
I
here.
know, right?
Okay. So we don't have it, and then we like, Lord, can you
And
help?
then we upset when it doesn't work out right. Now we want to pray and say, God, why did you send him to me? He's like, I didn't. You just jumped in his face, and now this is your mess.
And it's so true because we talked about this just a little off cut. We talked about how can we be such intelligent women, but when it comes to our love IQ, it's so low.
Yeah, right. And I will say this, because I said this when you and I were talking before the show, is that women are emotional creatures. We are very, very emotional. We are easily deceived. That's what happened to Eve. Eve
Yes.
wasn't a bad woman, but because of her conversation, her being inquisitive, she was deceived. And so we too can be deceived because the nature of how we're made up. That doesn't make us bad people. It's just the how we're wired. And I said this to you also, Dr. K. We talk a lot of times about a lot of the young boys need their fathers and their father figures in their lives to teach them how to be men. That's why girls need fathers as well, because fathers are supposed to be the protectors. They're not only just a provider, but they're a protector. And so I was blessed and still am blessed because my dad is still living. He had conversations with us about what that quote scound booger gonna do or say. And that's was one of his phrases. And so my father had a very humorous way of communicating things with us, but he was telling us things as our protector. And then as we got older and was like in our early 20s, he would say, well, I'm gonna tell you something. This is what I believe about him. And if now that I told you, if you choose to continue on, you can't say your daddy didn't tell you, you know. So I believe that's a missing element. We don't have that, we don't always have that. And then you said we talk to other women about men.
Oh.
We all in the same boat
Mm.
together, sis. You know, we all in the same boat together. And I'm not saying the older women won't have, you know, more mature women will offer us godly wisdom and advice. But sometimes we'll be saying, well, you know, that sister turnip seed, I love her to death, but you know, she was raised in the 40s and the 50s. This is the 2000s. Well, some things don't change. Principle,
Mm.
gravity works just like it did in the now than it did in 1935. You know what I'm saying? You jump off the house, you're gonna fall to the ground. Simple as that. So I think a lot of that has to do, and so I have to give credit to where credit is due. It's not that I'm just so brilliant. Some of what I share in the book, my dad shared with me, but then in time I know it was the wisdom of God because there was just certain things. I just I wasn't hungry and I wasn't thirsty. So you could invite me out for drinks or dinner, but I wasn't gonna say yes because I wasn't hungry or thirsty.
That part right there. Let's freeze that part. A lot of women are hungry and thirsty only because they cut off men. So if you in the desert, the moment you get a glass of water, you're not
You're gonna try to drink it all
you
up.
you lapping like a
You're not
dog. Where
sipping, you just
no,
guggling it down.
right. And so sisters is out there. Stop drowning yourself from men. I'm not
Right.
gonna date. I'm not gonna talk to a guy. Only when my husband get here is
How
I'm
you
just
gonna
gonna
know?
blossom.
How do you even know who he is if you know, the thing about me, I was happily single. Let me say that. I don't know
Mhm.
if I referenced that in the book. I probably did, but when I say happily single, I was happy. I didn't have to go out every weekend. I did not require a date. It didn't matter to me that this guy at church wanted to say something to me. I wasn't interested, so there was no sense in going there. But at the same time, I still engaged in conversations with me, and I would have conversations. I was told by guys that I went to church with that they didn't. They told me that I probably wouldn't get married anytime soon because I just had, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but they basically said, well, man can't do nothing for you. You got a good job, you got a house. I'm like, well, maybe he could offer something else because obviously I don't need a man to buy a house and buy a car. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's got to be more to it than that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the point is this: once upon a time, when women could not open bank accounts and could not have jobs without their husband's approval, or open bank accounts without their husband's approval, or do anything without their husband's approval, they did get married so that they would be able to have some semblance of a life because society was set up where none of that was possible. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, that's just where we were, but we don't live in that time now. So at the end of the day, many of them stayed with those husbands because they knew that if they left them, they would be destitute with nothing. That's not who we are today. We have as much capability and an opportunity to have what it is we want, our quality of life. Dr. K, you have your own home. It's not about that anymore. So we've got to look at the other things that have greater value. It's not to say that a home and all of that, having stability is awesome. I think that's very much important, but it has to be more than that. And we sometimes stay stuck in that area and we miss all the other, you know.
Mm.
Then we disappointed greatly
That's
so,
true.
you know.
I
And
think
then
because uh,
God forbid we become sexually active and he's good in bed. Oh my God, we just through the roof. Then you know we just stupid for real. You know,
can
be
we
like,
talk about that part?
well,
Even
we
though,
need to because it's the reality of where we are. You know, and that's
yeah,
why things have to be done. I'm not saying that in judgment. I'm not saying that none of this in judgment, but all of those things
yeah,
factor into our emotions. That's why we keep making emotional decisions.
yeah. And then if you think about it, the Bible basically, when you see those that quote unquote, even we start with Adam and Eve, they didn't have a ceremony. The
Hmm.
God presented her, and he was like, basically, this is my wife.
Yeah.
I think about Isaac and Rebecca. Isaac
Right.
took Rebecca up in tent, came back out, and was like, this is my
Right.
wife. So
Right.
sex is a bonding, is a spiritual marriage. So that's why when we sleep with somebody, all of a sudden we're in wife. It activates wife mode for us,
It does.
because then we start to like, okay, I done gave this man my body, so I gotta, especially if you're a Christian, it's a different weight on you. When I wasn't a Christian and I was out there in the sheets, in the sheets, I didn't have a thought about I slept
Right.
with the guy. I didn't care if
Like
he called.
whatever.
Yeah, the next day or what.
Yeah, I got my fix. I'm
Right,
done. That's
right.
fine. He called, fine. If he don't, whatever.
So, but when I got saved, I knew right away, you can't go back. You can't get in them
Right.
sheets
There's a measure
anymore.
of conviction that comes with that. And I
Yes.
get it. Because here's the thing, and what I don't want people to see, and a lot of times we look at it's like we can't do nothing as a Christian. Everything that God gives us for his advisement is really to protect us. It's not to prevent us from having a quality of life. We don't see it that way. We look at it as well, Lord, what am I can't do this, I can't do that. What am I supposed to do? Da 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 da. And then of course you have the other thing when women say as well, if I don't have sex with him before we get married, how am I gonna be satisfied? Well, I believe that if you truly trust God with all things, if he brings someone to your life, he's gonna be able to satisfy you in all capacities. I just believe that. And if not, he's gonna be willing to learn. So you just put that on the back burner. So but the point is, to your point, is that at the onset is that because we are emotional creatures and we live a lot of times by emotions that are on our sleeves, all of
Mhm.
these extraneous variables feed to our emotional side and not our rational side.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And then one point you brought up is a lot of people. I remember God told me when I told him, I say, look, I'm abstinent until I get married. And he
hmm
was like, well, I'm not going to marry somebody I haven't slept with. And so I think that's a misconception because even when we were single, we got to think about guys that we were with that the sex was horrible. And
yeah,
we just didn't get rid of, we stuck with them.
girl,
Anytime, now listen, women
for
will
some
stick with a
reason
man that will physically abuse them,
they
that
do.
will mentally abuse them, that's bad in bed. But now that all of a sudden you saved, you got to be like, oh, I got to test the waters. I got to do
Yeah.
this. I got to do. That's nothing
So,
but the
and that's the trick of the
enemy.
I was going to say that's the trick of the enemy. So yeah, so in me writing this book, the point I wanted to emphasize more so than anything was when I made reference to the characteristics, my question is, what are your standards?
Mm,
What standards do you have? And I'm not talking about the superficial because that could change.
yeah,
Yeah, we want somebody tall, dark, and handsome. Yeah, we want somebody with a great personality. That's all given. But after you've been married for 20 years, my husband's had health challenges. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? He doesn't have the energy level he did when we first got married. So what? I don't either. You know what I'm saying? So things like that change.
yeah,
So when you look at that type of criteria, although it's important,
yeah.
because that's subject to change. What about the other things? Like his does he keep his word? Can you depend
Mm,
on him?
mm.
That type of thing.
So before we take a break, let me see. Um, One thing that I did that stood out for me just in the beginning of your book. You said, and there are those who simply do not know what to look for in a man we don't know what to look for in a man who is truly prepared to lead, love, and build. Let me say it again. And then there are those who simply do not know what to look for in a man who is truly prepared to lead, love, and build. So, how do we know what to look for when a guy, how can I put it, if a guy is ready to lead, love, and build, what characteristics do we look for that shows us that he's ready to love, lead, and build? That was a good question right there. Most of us don't know.
No, we don't, because no one has told us what to look for. That's what goes back to the father figure. When your dad is telling you, I remember one guy wanted, we would, I guess we would, I don't know what we were doing, but anyway, we were in college. So he came down to see me and he hung out for a little while. And my dad greeted him, how you doing, young man? Introduced himself or whatever. We kind of sat around, chit chatted or whatever. And then he left. And my daddy came to me and he says, I'm going to tell you now, he's about playing games
Mm.
and I'm not raising toys.
Wow.
He said, so I just told you. Now I'm going, he wasn't here but about an hour. How did you pick up? How did you? Because men know men. You
Mm,
follow what I'm saying? So if you don't
yeah.
have that protector in your life, or one whose voice you respect, you allow yourself to be vulnerable. And what Daddy said about him was absolutely true. I know there was another situation where I was, I guess, seeing a guy, and I knew he was cheating on. He had a girlfriend. I'm saying cheating on me. I probably was the girl who was being cheated on. He was probably cheating on her and not me. But nevertheless, he tried to downplay the fact that he had this other woman in his life, and it wasn't anything to it. But I knew better because my intuition, first of all, told me. But I just had context clues. So girl, okay. So this was college. Let me
Spill the
preface
tea,
this.
girl.
This was in my early 20s. My
Yeah.
girlfriend and I staked out his apartment, baby. We sat in the parking lot and watched, and I waited. And here they
Mm,
come in together. They had gone to the laundromat and did laundry. They had gone to the grocery store and had groceries and all that stuff. I said, I know. She's probably practically living there. I knew that, but you couldn't tell me any different. So then as soon as she got in the house, I went to the door and knocked on it.
mm.
And he says, she just came over. She's got a lot. I says, please stop with the lies. I sat here and watched y'all leave and y'all come back. She's living there. I just wanted you to know I'm not stupid. And I was done with it because I had already come to that conclusion. So my girlfriend and I left. We went shopping. We went out to lunch. We just did our thing. Don't you know this guy drove to my parents' house to have a conversation? I guess he wanted to amend for his ways. So when I get home, my dad says, so what happened to you today? What happened? I was like, nothing. He's like, you sure about that? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, somebody came by here to see you. And I said, who? And he told me, I was like, what do he want? My whole countenance changed. He says, well, he came to see you because apparently something happened. But I tell you what, you ain't got to worry about him no more because I had a good conversation with him myself.
Mm.
You got to have somebody to protect you. You follow what I'm saying? My
Yes,
daddy protected
yes.
us. He gave us the advice, and he never got in our business in the sense he tried to hook us up and things of that nature. But he was always there, and if we had questions, we could ask. If we wanted his opinion, he would tell us. But then a lot of times he told us things up front. And so because many of us don't have that, I'm not
Mm,
saying we don't have a father in the home. We don't have a man that's talking about the things that need to be discussed. You know what I mean? For
mm.
whatever reason, we
Yeah,
fall victim. I was grateful and I still am for who I had. And so I was able to build on that. So there were certain things I wouldn't have known
yeah.
if my father hadn't said, because men know men. Men know men.
Yeah. And you know what? That's the issue is that we get so much feminine advice as we talked about.
Hmm.
And what's going to happen if my girlfriend coming to me, I'm going to do two things. If I feel like I like the guy, I'm going to root for him. But if I don't, if I see
Right.
something, I'm going to tell her. But what's the
Right.
probability of her listening to me? Cuz deep in her mind the enemy is going to say, especially me, I'll you think me like she ain't never been married. She don't know what she talking
Well, she
about.
knows she's talking
She
about. Girl,
right, she probably jealous or
I,
girl,
that. I
yeah.
had a family member to tell me that was discussion with family for me. I gave her a heads up, a warning about the guy she was dating. And then the conversation was, and this is just jealous because you get married before her. I said, you have absolutely nothing that I am jealous of. Let's be clear. I was
Mm,
sharing that with you because I'm concerned about your welfare. Sure enough, everything I told her came out in the light after she got married. It was a mess,
mm,
but everybody's not going to have that heart. But on the thing is we got, and that's why I wanted to write the book, because I realized that my dad is my hero. I had him in my life to share. So I really feel like I owe it to my sister friends, especially if they desire to get married.
mhm. Yeah.
They say it's P in the dating pool, and I laugh about that. I said, well, why are you trying to date every weekend?
Mm,
What's the point of going out every weekend? You got a different person. Why? What are you doing? You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Or, especially if you profess to be a Christian and you desire marriage. We just have to go about this thing a little differently, but it's going to start with standards. If you don't have a standard for what you want in a man outside of what could possibly change, then you setting yourself up from the get go.
Oh wow. You're right. And I think what it is, only standard we have that he like us, that he want us.
And he took me to Ruth Chris, girl. Oh my
Yep.
God. And he
And
smells so good. And all that's good. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But it's gotta be more to it than that.
but if you think about it, we're dating at an elementary level. We
Very
have not been
elementary.
taught about relationships. We
We
have
have
not been
not.
taught what we're supposed to be looking for. We
Right.
just basically look around us and see what's going on. Okay, my mama, I don't like the way my daddy treated my mama, so I'm gonna find a man that don't act like that.
Right.
Or I like the way he treated my mama. I want a man like that. We don't have
Right.
any standards. So when we don't have standards, we're
We don't have
compromising.
parameters. We especially in the Christian community, we follow. I see. Let me say it this way.
Yeah.
I what I have seen is two ends of the spectrum. We either sit in the house and we don't go anywhere and do anything but go to church and go to work, and we say he gonna find us. So unless he at the stoplight or at the grocery store, I guess he will. That's possible, but the probability is none. Or there's the other end of the spectrum where they're in the church because they're looking for a husband. So they go to everything. They go to every choir day, every men's day, every jurisdictional meeting, every revival, every Sunday school class, every singles event because they're looking for the man. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Now you at
Yeah.
the same church around the same people all the time. So so you got two ends of the spectrum. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but the probability is none. Then you have the carnal Christian. She truly loves God, but if she desires to be married, so she figures since she sees all these single women in church, maybe she needs to do what the other people do. So she finds
Mhm.
herself compromising, like, sleeping around or dating guys and find herself disappointed because she really wants to be married. All of that is so real. But I really believe it boils down to, and you think about it in the church communities, they'll say, he needs to find you. He that finds a wife finds a good thing. When we talk about marriage, we talk about it from the standpoint of it's better to marry to burn, because we made sex to be something that it's a sin until you get married, which that's what the Bible teaches us. But
Mhm.
you got to be more motivated to get married just because of sex. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
what happens when the sex can't happen no more? He
Mm.
may get sick, you may get sick. Then
Mhm.
what do I had a friend that her daughter was 23, 24,
Uh-huh.
got pregnant, had twins. And so when I hadn't seen them in a while, I was like, "Oh, how's baby girl doing?" She says, "Girl, she's doing good, but she got two babies." I was like, "Two?" She said, "Yeah, she had twins." She said, "Just pray for her." I said, "Pray for her. How you want me to pray for her?" She said, "Because she had out here having sex and had babies." I said, "Well, you had sex when you was 24, didn't you?"
Mm.
She was like, I said, "But you got married to have sex." "Oh, that's right." I said, "Then when you got married, you realized that the sex wasn't all you thought it was going to be. And now you still married." And her husband treat her like dirt. You follow what I'm
Ooh.
saying? He
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
since day one, she was a byproduct. He never honored her as a wife.
Mm.
But because she needed to get married so she could have sex, so it will be legitimate. She got two kids, so she's raising the kids without him because he's not responsible. You see what I'm saying? In the
Yeah.
church environment. So it's got to be more to it than that. And we need to have these conversations, but oftentimes we don't. We
Mm.
don't because we don't want to be transparent. We don't want to
Mm.
be authentic. Deacon Rudd is a scoundrel and everybody know it and don't nobody want to know. They don't want people to know.
Mhm. I
So it's
know.
a lot of that. So
It's a
again,
lot. It's a
yeah,
lot that we don't have conversations about in
we
the
don't,
church.
and we
And we
need
need
to.
to have real conversations. We act like that what's happening in the body of Christ is so different from what's happening in the world.
It's not because
Women
we're using the
desire
same
husbands.
standards.
Yeah, and husbands and men desire women, women desire men. We
That's
want
natural.
yeah, and there's so many women in the church that want to be married. And I'm like, why is it that it's
Yeah,
so many that want to be married, but it's so less marriages happening? But we're gonna
yeah.
go on break because
Okay,
when we go on break and we come back, we're gonna talk
we're gonna
about the
stay
book. We
focused. We're gonna stay
we yeah,
focused.
we're gonna get up in that book. So Dr. Anissa, give us 1 minute as I go out there and see what they're saying about us. Anything you want to say for 1 minute, it's your shot.
Well, first, I want to say once again, Dr. K, for allowing me to talk about this book again. This book is my baby. I wanted to share not just my marriage story, but also share the principles that are contained in it because I feel like I owe it to my community. I know too many women that are in the Christian. Listen, whether you're a Christian or not, I know plenty of women that desire a life companion, but they're afraid to get married. They're because of things they've seen. They really don't know where to go. They just frustrated with the process of meeting people and being disappointed. And so I knew that, as in times past, with regards to business and everything else, that we owe it to our friends. We owe it to the next person. Our voice has value. And so because I had something I felt worthy to share, I didn't want it to just be about me and my husband's courtship. I wanted it to have a greater purpose behind it. And when I talked with him about it and told him my idea, he said, "Go for it." So, yeah, I'm glad to know that people are enjoying the book. I wanted it to be a quick read because I didn't want it was not a thesis, it was not a dissertation project. I just wanted to be cut and dry and to the point and easy to read. And I was hoping that somebody, if at least one person gained from it, it would be worth the while. So I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I appreciate the feedback, and I'm thankful, and I give God the glory because the idea came from Him, really.
Amen. And we have some people that that left some comments.
Okay,
One was Marietta. She said, "My dad was my hero." She said, "A short book but powerful." She
thank
said,
you,
"This book is so awesome and enlightening and encouraging."
thank
And
you.
we got Candace out there. She said, "Hello, ladies." And let me see who else we had. We had Tony. She said, "This is good. Thanks, Coach K, for keeping us informed on all sorts of subjects, books, and other informative issues and tools." Oh, you are so welcome. And whoever else is out there watching, maybe commenting, and I can't see it, I just want to thank you for being out there and for watching and for sharing. Yeah, for definitely sharing the Ruby Girl Talk Show. Because tonight, we're on our second part, and thank you, Dr. Anissa. That was so good. So we kind of got into just natural talk on the first half because sometimes it's needed. Sometimes it's just like, hey, let's stop and pause and talk about what's really going on because we like to take it to the word, but sometimes we can get too
Yeah,
spiritual.
I don't.
Eh,
That's not my time.
Yeah,
That's not my style. I mean, I believe in
yeah.
God, and the Bible is the principle by which I live. But I want to be everyday people because the Word does say we should be living epistles. It didn't say we should be out quoting scriptures. That's not what it said. You know, we should be
Hmm.
living our lives and making an impact such that people will receive what you have to say because they trust you, they like you, they know you, they trust you. That's what I hope people gain from everything that I do, not just this book, but any other book as well.
So you've been traveling, and speaking
Yeah,
about your book, she's been on a book tour, y'all. Now, what
yeah.
has surprised you the most about the response from readers and audience?
Just feedback like you've got. Well, my desire was that somebody would say, "Oh, this is just what I needed." That's what I hoped. And not that I had a whole lot, but I've gotten a lot of buzz. I mean, I've had people to say, "Oh, your book came," and before I could get situated in the house, I sat down and I read it through and through, that kind of thing. One
Hmm.
lady I know has two adult daughters that live with her, and she said when she finished reading it, they read it and they were like, "I want my own copy," that kind of thing. So I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm blessed that people are receiving it and they see it for more than just my story, but they see the why behind it. That's the biggest blessing, I think.
So I want to just share right quick some testimonies that you got. Let's see right here. Okay. This one is, see, let me move this so I can see. Y'all probably can see, but I can't see. It has only been a few days and I have finished reading your book. I really enjoyed it. Such a beautiful love story. This book is not just for the women. Men, go get your book too. And you talk about in your book that this is a good book for a man to read because it's kind of like a manual of how to treat a woman. If
It
a man
really is.
sincerely wants to love a woman like Christ loves the church, this is the book to get because it talks about the character of your husband and how
Right,
he was consistently showing up as who he was supposed to show up. And
right,
he was pursuing you in a soft way. He
right.
wasn't out hunting. It's a difference between being
Mm-mm,
pursued and there's a
mm-mm.
difference between being hunted.
Right.
And I kept and it was so funny how you didn't even know what was going on in a way. Even when your friend said he called, he wanted to make sure you made it back safely. She said he don't even care if my side of the plane
Yes,
fell apart, long as your side of the plane was
I was like,
good.
girl, quit playing. I was like so clueless.
And so I had to laugh about it because I said he wasn't, he knew. And then when I had read in the book, when he said that the Lord had already told him that you was his wife, and I was like, I thought it was somewhere up in the process that maybe y'all talking that he found,
No,
but he knew right away. He
he
didn't
knew right
come with
away.
that line that, you're
Oh
supposed
my
to be my
God.
wife.
And if he had, it would have been a big X from the get go because I had heard that so many times. So many times I had heard that.
Now, here's another one. It's for those who may be contemplating, there we go, marriage. My good friend Anissa Conrad Short wrote a book titled Why I Said Yes. Yes is her story. However, it gave me pause and made me think back to when I said I do. Wow, everyone's journey is different, but the book makes you think before rushing into a relationship and prematurely saying I do. While I'm well past this phase of my life, it's still a great little book to read. Wow. And so here's the last one. Let's see, this one here is her reviews off Amazon. Here I am, y'all. I said this book was an easy read. It was well written, a must for anyone who need clarity before commitment. Dr. Short made this book impactful and helpful. I'm so glad she wrote this book. It would take away a lot of fears have a lot of fears women haven't. I made a mistake. Have about is he the right one or not? Hopefully I can go out there and correct that. But it took away a lot of my fears because I had a lot of fear attached to marriage. Like, what
Right.
if I get married and I get all the way on my wedding day and I look at this man and say, I can't spend the rest of my life with you. Or we wake up the next morning and I'm like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I made a mistake. That's one of my fears that I
Yeah.
have when
Yeah.
it comes to marriage. And then you got two more. It says, very insightful, very thorough. If you are thinking about marriage, this is a very helpful guide. Read with a clear and precise understanding. And Dr. Velma said, what a beautiful crafted guide for those struggling to discover their mate. Dr. Anissa perfectly maps out 10 powerful characteristics which directed her yes and shares them with us. You will walk away better equipped to navigate your mate choice. After reading this book, great job, Dr. Anissa. And so I just want to just run through just a few characteristics.
Okay.
She talks about his approach. He honored what mattered to me. He paid attention to details. And when I read this book, he made it all about you, Dr. Anissa.
It was. It was about me from day one. And I didn't, and here's the thing. Okay, so it, he made it hard to even be mean to him, like to dismiss him, because he wasn't going anywhere. He said, and then of course, jokingly now after we've been married, he says, I knew you didn't know what was good for you, so I just stuck it out. Eventually it will come to you. come to you. It was everything. Everything was about me. And listen, we've been married 28 years to this day, and May 30th made 28 years, and in 28 years, every decision that we had to make about the quality of our life or whatever, he always preferred me over everything. He always wants me to be comfortable. If we're going to go somewhere, if we're invited to something, he'll say, well, that sounds good, but I'm going to talk it over with my wife because if I don't feel comfortable, there were things that we were invited to, and he'll say, I'm not interested in going because I want you to be comfortable. It's been that way since day one, since
Oh,
day
wow.
one, pre-marriage and even since marriage.
That's very important
It
because we
is.
feel like we're supposed to make everything better for him.
Right.
And so you find us doing things. Like I remember this my one of my neighbors, he was very selfish and we was having a conversation. I was like, "You're not working." I've never seen his kids come over his house. He said, "I'm a very selfish man." He said, "I never wanted kids." I said, "Well, you got two." He said, "Well, the first woman told me that because I was selfish, I needed a child." So she had my daughter. I said, "Oh." And he said the second woman was like, "Well, maybe you just need another child and you'll be a better person." And so now he has two children that not saying he did contribute, but the fact that
Right.
these women made this decision saying this would be best for you, that this is what you need. And sometimes we as women, we want to make a man's life so good that we shrink what we want. But I love that you said it was all about you. Ladies, that's the first thing. It's it's got to be all about us because we're the prize. We act like they the Cracker Jack box prize. They're not. We are the prize. We're the good thing. We are the great thing. We matter. And so if a man is
Right.
all about himself, he's selfish. It's gonna always be about himself. You can't turn his heart. His heart is what it is. So has
And
there
he's not husband material if he's thinking about himself.
Wow. That's boyfriend. Boyfriends think about
That's not,
themselves.
no, actually is, yeah, no, that's not, he's not even boyfriend. He's just a
Ooh.
taxpayer. He's a person
Oh.
that's employed to pay taxes. He doesn't, because here's the thing, the basis of a relationship, even a good friendship, a person
Hmm.
who considers themselves your friend will look out for you. You follow what
That's
I'm
true.
saying? They'll be there for you. So if a person is selfish and all they think
Mhm.
about is themselves, that's who they need to be with, themselves. Nobody else. They're not even good boyfriend material.
Oh wow. That's good. You're right. You said a taxpayer. He can't even be in no friend
No, he just
category.
go work. He can work and play taxes. He's an acquaintance. He's someone I wave it. Hey, brother, and you go on. Mm-mm.
So has there been a testimony from your book that has stayed with you?
One lady told me that she's not married. She's never been married, but she said that she felt like she was better equipped to know what to look for the next time. And I said, no, don't look for anything. These are the characteristics you put on your wish list. So when you're praying and asking God to send your husband, then you know what you want. You want to be focused on the things that could change, the variables that can change. You follow what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
won't get caught up into the superficial or the emotional. You'll say, "I want a God, I want a man who treats me like Christ loves the church, who
Mm.
prioritizes me, who I don't have to be chasing around and ghosting, and trying to figure out whether he's going to be there or not." And here's another caveat for those who don't have my book. You all should know that my courtship with my husband was an 800-mile relationship.
Mm.
We lived in two different states, 800 miles from each other. And the consistency that he created despite the distance. And I was very averse to a long distance relationship, but he convinced me to give it a try. And here we go. And then
Wow.
when we decided to go ahead and get married, he says, "You don't move, I'll move to where you are." And I said, "Well, I don't mind." He says, "No, I knew I didn't want to move to the DMV because I need my money to go further." But he was like, "No, um, it's important for you to be close to your family. So I'll come to where you are." I'm telling you,
Wow.
this was a godsend. And I
Mhm.
wasn't, okay, another point. I was engaged to be married, but prior to meeting my husband, I was in a
Yes.
relationship. Everything else, all the dots, we hit all the points. We both were Christians. We both were from a good home with a mama and a dad in the house. We went to college. We got our degrees. We had good paying jobs. We were churchgoers. All of that. He was good looking. I was cute. That kind of thing. And everybody thought we were just like Barbie and Ken or the black versions of it, cause all that kind of thing. So when I ended the relationship after being engaged. I knew when I accepted his proposal, I should have said no
Oh.
because he was selfish and immature.
Mm. And he was
He was
threatened by who you were too.
He was exactly. And then now, fast forward later, many years later, he had a mutual acquaintance, his cousin specifically, who still remained my friend. Said he needed to have a conversation with you. So I thought he was dying with AIDS or something. I was like, well, why you need to talk to me? I don't need to talk to him. And that's what he wanted to say. He apologized. He says, and looking back now, I realized I was not mature enough to be married to you. And everything that you said and the way I treated you wasn't right. He asked for forgiveness.
Mhm. That's
So
rare.
when you made reference to getting married and then looking back and said maybe I shouldn't have did this, I believe every woman who got married and was not happy in their marriage knew it before they said yes, but they just pushed through. I just do because emotionally, well, everybody's going. I sent the invitations. We were 3 months to get married, and I said, "I'm ending the relationship. Here's your ring, everything," because I didn't want to live like that. I
Wow.
needed to be me. I needed to be me. So yeah, and I'm not saying every situation is going to be perfect, but I just truly believe when you want what you want and you want it for the right reasons, God will send someone to you. And you don't have to compromise your standards. You don't have to compromise who you are. But oftentimes, because we don't know what to look for, we make the compromises not knowing we're compromising. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And you know
Yeah.
what? We've been taught to look for flags instead of looking for fruit. The
Hmm.
Bible tells us to look for fruit. We're
Exactly.
looking for, like I said, those red flags already bring an edge to the relationship because every,
And then
yeah,
sometimes too, what we consider to be a red flag. Now, trust and believe, there are these are not flags. They're like red blankets. Some of them are, they're
yeah,
visible. But sometimes some of the things that we consider to be a red flag, like for example, some women says, "Well, I need my husband to be making. He needs to be making an executive salary, or he needs to be earning six figures." Well, how many black men do you know make six figures?
mm,
Now that doesn't mean he won't be an honest, hard worker. He won't provide. He may not make as much money as you do, but because he doesn't, you cut him off
mm,
because you said, "Well, that's a red flag because he's not ambitious enough." That kind of thing.
yeah,
I have a cousin who, God rest his soul, he got married. His wife was a nurse, and he talked about later after they got married and had kids, he worked two jobs most of their marriage. He says, "I work two jobs." He said, "Because my wife makes more money than me." He says, "Now I don't have a problem with that." He says, "But I refuse to have her carrying the load as the man. So if I have to work two jobs to make sure I'm bringing things up to par." He
yeah,
says, "What I wish I had done was gone to college like she did." He says, "But I didn't." He continued
mm,
to work those two jobs until he got a job working with the post office as the driver of the mail. Then eventually he got a job in the office. And eventually he was making more money. But the thing I loved about him is because he loved his wife enough to say she worked as a nurse 3 days a week, 12 hours a day. He said, "I'm gonna work two jobs because while I don't have a problem with her making more money than me, I'm not gonna have her carrying the family because that's my role as a
yeah,
spouse." She loved him till he died, and to this day, I mean, she didn't belittle him because he was a good man. You follow what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
yeah.
what if she had said as a nurse, "Well, I can't be married to him because he don't make enough money"? We
I
consider
just,
that to be a red flag. Now, I'm not saying
yeah.
Buster needs to be sitting on his, on the sofa Netflixing and chilling, but you get what I'm saying.
Oh,
So
I get
some things that we
exactly
consider
what you're
to be
saying.
red flags are not red flags.
Mm.
They're
A-
not. So,
And I think you got to understand the character of the
of the
person
person.
that you with.
And that's
The
what the
fact that you
characters are.
said that he worked two jobs. I have a problem with a wife that has to work two jobs and her husband is only working one. That's opening the door for something that's a whole nother
It is.
conversation.
Girl, my
Uh,
dad will point out things like this. He'll say, "Why is she at the bus stop catching a bus? Does she not have a man in her life to pick her up and bring her home?" And I was like, "Well, Daddy, she might not be married." He said, "Well, does she not have a brother or a daddy or uncle?" My
mm,
father used to always say, "That's what the man's job is, to protect the women in his family." That was a
yes.
measure of protection. I said, "Well, maybe she doesn't have anybody." But most of the times they do. They driving her car, dropping her off, and then she time for her to get off, and he late picking her up. Girl,
Mm.
anyway.
Uh, so writing a book is one thing, but watching it change lives is another. How has this journey changed you personally, and what has God been teaching you through the impact of why I said yes?
This story was more, I was placed myself in a more vulnerable position because I talked about my personal life. you know Everything else I've ever written, has been just, directives or information or inspirational or, educational from that perspective. Why I said yes gave glimpse into my life.
Yeah,
And when you do that, you run the risk of people saying, "Well, she act like her marriage so perfect, she act like everything is da 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 da." So you in the back of your mind, you know that may come about. I don't care. I really don't, because it's not for you. It's
yeah,
for the person who really desires it. And I know, so because of that, because I talked about my personal life and I was going to convey my story, that's why I talked it over with my husband, said, "Here's what I want to do. What do you think?" And he said, "Go for it."
mm,
So long as I got his okay, and I felt like it was a necessity because I believe God impressed it on my heart, I went ahead and wrote the story. I didn't go into every detail about our courtship because it wasn't necessary,
yeah,
but I believe I did what I was assigned to do. So how has this changed me? It placed me in a more vulnerable position because I'm talking about who I am and what happened for me, and how God really showed up in my life in this way. Not because I'm perfect or I dotted every I or crossed every T, but he graced me with the gift of a good husband. And I realized that I was a participant in this. He's not choosing me, but we have to choose each other. But he gave me what I needed to be able to make a decision and be confident in that decision. I was never uncomfortable with the decision to marry him. I felt like I was marrying my good friend.
oh wow, And that's what all women want. We want
Yeah,
somebody that's our friend. So, real
right.
quick, we only got 6 minutes. So, what three things do you want your readers to get from your book?
I want them to place value on the character of the man, and to see that the character is what really matters the most, right? We're gonna sprinkle in all that other stuff, good looking with a good job, smell good, that kind of stuff. But the character is what's most important. I want them to take away from the fact that they will their character, what they say and what they do should match.
Hmm.
Oftentimes we get excited about what they say, but their actions don't measure up. You're not bipolar, you're not crazy. If his actions are not consistent to what he said, then he told you. If he's never showing up, don't doubt that, right? And then of course, if you really truly want to be married, um, create a list, set your standard. If you never had a standard, if it just said he had to be male with a job, I mean that's like minimal. That's elementary. That's preschool standard. Set your standard and set them high, because that's what God desires of us. I mean, he said that the marriage relationship is the only thing that is parallel to God's Christ relationship with his church. That's it.
Hmm.
So if that man is not willing to make a sacrifice for you, to sacrifice, to give of himself for you, he's not trying to be a husband. He's just trying to be a partner, maybe. He's trying to benefit from the relationship in some capacity, but he's not trying to be a husband. And if you want a husband, then use that biblical reference, and don't compromise off of it. Period. Don't compromise.
Wow. So give us a 1 minute close out and we out of here. Make sure
Thank
you get a
you.
book.
I just want to
What
say
I
thank you. I
say.
thank you
Yes.
once again.
Oh,
For
you're
those who have
welcome.
not gotten the book, get the book. Give it to
Mm.
your sister friend who been saying she want to be married. Give her a copy. Everybody should have one for Christmas. Let me just say it, right? And then on Sunday, this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. Central Time, my book is going to be featured at a book club conversation on YouTube. Dr. K, I shared with you. The
Yeah.
church that I attend, we have a book club, and my book was chosen to be the book for this month. And so I don't know what questions they're going to be asking me, but it'll be featured again. And I'm really thinking about having why I said yes summit. So we could talk about, the marriage
Yeah.
life for my single friends. You know what I'm saying? I'm really
Yes. We
considering
need
that. So
it.
be on the lookout for that.
Okay. I love that. I love it. All right. So that's it, y'all. We thank Dr. Anissa once again for being here. And I just want to say thank you. You shifted my mindset. You gave me hope that there's a clear dating pond out there. I'm out the pool. I want to get in the pond. The pool is tainted, but the pond is clear because you have given us clarity about what we want. We're just out here, like you say, dating at an elementary level. We have no standards. Oh, he like us, and then we just try to make everything else fit. We know
Yeah.
he's not the right piece to our puzzle, but we're still trying to force it. But you gave us hope and showed us there are good marriages out there.
There are
And
good
I
men out there.
and
There
there's
are.
yes, there's godly
Watch what you
men.
say too. You can't talk about men being no good and then expect a husband.
Oh wow. See, she just done made all the single women just feel guilty. Thanks for
Now
that
I do,
last part.
I do know there's some
Yeah.
scoundrels out there, right? But just watch what you say, because you
Yeah.
know we have what we say.
You're right. So ladies, after reading the book, our whole mindset should shift. We should be more positive speaking about what God is going to send into our life. We should be more hopeful. We got standards. We don't settle for anything. And we're not hungry and thirsty. We're not
Oh,
in a desert. The
please go
enemy
eat.
tell us
Yeah,
it's
right.
only like we're in a fish bowl. I keep saying that. And the fish bowl is only the limited amount of fish. God created the seas. So there's a lot of fish out there. If one like you, trust me, there's another one out there that's better that's going to like you too. Stop thinking because of maybe your shortcomings or what you think is flaws that you just have to take the first thing that's smoking. No, no, no. You are still worthy. So ladies and gentlemen, I know some men out there watching. Get the book, men. This is a guide. So y'all have a great and fantastic night, evening, whatever time you're watching this. And once again, thank you, Dr. Anissa. So we're signing
Thank
off.
you, Dr. K.
Oh, you're welcome. We're about to sign off. So y'all have a great and fantastic night.